moving on from Frege, or before we move on from Frege, it should be noted that his entire theory is known as the sense theory of meaning, right? That is to say that meaning of words, how they convey information, how they are in any way effectual for communication of facts, is bound up with their sense, right? That middle feature in all of this. Outside of the use of proper names, sense is where meaning comes from, according to Frege. Right? Proper names and pronouns are the only thing that skip this. And that's great and everything, but as the philosopher Bertrand Russell noted, this is in practice somewhat problematic, right? If you want to maintain a direct reference theory of language or a form of linguistic realism. All right. So Bertrand Russell, who lived to be about 98 years old, right, from 1872 to 1970. I'm telling you, if you want to live a long life, or a very short one, do philosophy. Pretty much none of us die at an average age. Right? So, Russell argued that the idea, he argued against Frege's idea that thoughts and propositions have senses. Right? He thought that if they refer directly to entities in the world, it's because they denote. Right? That is to say, they pick out exclusively actual entities and simply have direct reference, meaning every use of language is one-to-one on-to, right? There is no middle step where there's vagueness. So they directly refer to those entities and nothing more or less. And he did this kind of cleverly by noting that there are two forms that propositions take. Right? They can be either universal, of the form that any x such that x is blank, x is y, or particular. Right? There exists an x such that x is y. Right? And classical examples, the classic examples of these two for the universal statement, all men are mortal, right? Basically, for any x such that x is a man, x is mortal. So man is mortal. Right? Excuse me. And for the particular, Socrates is a man. Right? Another way, just the most logically extrapolated way of putting that is Socrates exists such that he is a man. Right? That's how you would lay it out if you wanted to put it in like the most concrete, logically dry language to avoid misconceptions. So what he noticed, what Russell noticed that led him to this idea, to this thought, is that if we do not allow for, if we allow sense to be the arbiter of meaning, then what we get are phrases where occasionally there will be empty reference, right? Where what is said makes sense linguistically, right? That is, we can interpret it and understand it, but it actually refers to nothing in the world directly. Right? His classic example is the present King of France is bald. There is no present King of France. If that statement had been uttered in the 1600s, yeah, it could be true, it could be false, right? There is no present King of France. France is no longer a monarchy. There's a president, but there's no present king, right? And that's the key phrase, right? The present King of France. Makes perfect sense. But it's a non-entity. Can a non-entity be bald? Can a non-entity even have hair? Can a non-entity have any attributes whatsoever? we're directly referring to something that doesn't exist. We understand it to be meaningful, but it's not true nor false, right? It's an empty reference. Right? Without an object in the world to refer to, the proposition cannot be true or false, or at least some propositions cannot be true or false when they lack a direct referent. Right. So this is why Russell, argues that um, it is direct reference alone and the denotation of objects in the world through the use of language that makes linguistic expressions meaningful.